My family begged me to let my sister drive my kids, even after she lost custody of her own for endangering her baby while drunk. When I finally confronted them, my dad said, "You're destroying this family over a mistake she already paid for." I just sat down and started highlighting the police report. That was 9 months ago. Yesterday, she left a full cart of groceries behind and walked out the moment she saw me. My sister called a child while hammered driving, so I made sure she'd never drive again. The day my sister Vivian got her license back, my mother called me 23 times. I knew exactly what she wanted before I even answered. She'd been working on me for months with carefully crafted stories about recovery and moving forward, but I wasn't letting someone who called a 4-year-old boy while hammered behind the wheel drive my children anywhere. Vivian had served 18 months for vehicular manslaughter. The boy's name was Kevin. He'd been walking home from preschool with his grandmother when Vivian ran the red light at 60 miles per hour. My youngest son had just started preschool too, yet somehow I became the family villain for saying no. Mom appeared at my door the day Vivian got her license reinstated. She came armed with AA chips, letters from Vivian's therapist, and a folder thick with character references. "She hasn't touched a drop in 2 years, Mom insisted, spreading papers across my kitchen table like evidence in a court case. "The court says she's safe to drive. The therapist says she's made remarkable progress." I kept my response simple. Vivian wasn't driving my kids. Not to school, not to soccer practice, not across the street. Their safety came before her feelings or anyone else's comfort. Mom's expression shifted from hopeful to furious in seconds. "Those are her nephews," she hissed, her voice trembling with rage. "You're treating her like a murderer. She made one mistake." The guilt attacks began immediately. My brother Jake called to say Vivian was devastated, sobbing for hours. Dad texted me recovery statistics every morning at 6 a.m. sharp. Even cousin Linda from Florida felt compelled to remind me about second chances and Christian forgiveness. They ambushed me at Mom's birthday dinner. I'd only stopped by to drop off her gift, planning to leave quickly. The whole family was there, arranged like an intervention. Vivian, too. She was holding car keys like a trophy, jangling them nervously. "I bought a new car," she announced, her voice artificially bright. 7 airbags and top safety ratings. I thought maybe I could take the boys to get ice cream, just down the street. My kids ran toward her before I could react. "Aunt Vivian, can we see your car?" My oldest was already reaching for the door handle. I grabbed all 3 boys, my hands shaking, and headed for the exit. Vivian's eyes filled with tears. "I just wanted to do something nice for them," she whispered. "I'm still their aunt. I love them." That's when I snapped. I reminded everyone that Kevin's family would never take him for ice cream again, that his grandmother still couldn't sleep without nightmares. Mom actually plugged her ears like a child. Dad mumbled about living in the past. Jake accused me of punishing innocent boys for adult problems. The character assassination began the next morning. Mom told her book club I was keeping her grandchildren away out of spite. She conveniently skipped the reason why. Vivian posted about family forgiveness on Instagram with sunset backgrounds and cursive fonts. Relatives I barely knew commented with hearts and prayer hand emojis. Then Vivian started appearing everywhere. The school parking lot at dismissal, soccer practice on Saturdays, the grocery store on Tuesday afternoons, always in her new silver SUV, always waving enthusiastically from the driver's seat. She'd call out offering rides when she saw us walking. "It's so hot outside. Let me drive you home." I documented each incident meticulously. Time, date, location, witnesses present. My husband installed a dash cam after she followed our van 3 times in 1 week, always maintaining exactly 2 car lengths behind. Everything exploded during Sam's baseball tournament. We'd driven 2 hours to the game, thinking we'd escaped. Halfway through the second inning, Vivian pulled up in the parking lot. Mom climbed out of the passenger seat, beaming like she'd orchestrated something wonderful. "Every boy needs their aunt cheering them on," Mom declared loudly enough for everyone to hear. Other parents started recognizing Vivian from news articles. One mother grabbed her son and left immediately. She'd gone to school with Kevin's mother. Within minutes, half the team's families were packing up. Parents whispered while gathering equipment. Sam struck out while watching the chaos in the stands. I found him crying in the dugout afterward. "Why did everyone leave?" he asked between sobs. "Did I do something wrong?" Vivian had brought him a gift, a toy car, still in its package. I filed for a no-contact order the next day. That's when things got truly ugly. Mom spent her retirement savings on Vivian's lawyer. They argued I was damaging family bonds over an accident. The lawyer claimed Vivian had paid her debt to society. My own mother testified that I was being vindictive and cruel. The judge issued a temporary order but warned it was legally shaky. Vivian had completed her sentence. She wasn't technically breaking laws by existing near us. The final hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks out. Last night, my phone rang. It was the prosecutor from Vivian's original case. "I need to tell you something about your sister's accident," he said. "Something that never made it to trial." My hands started shaking as he continued. "There was another child in the car." I froze. Another child? My mind raced through possibilities as the prosecutor's words echoed in my ears. Vivian's own daughter was in the back seat, he revealed. 3 years old at the time. The child wasn't injured, but child services investigated. "Your sister lost custody for 6 months. The phone slipped from my hand. Vivian had a daughter? In all the family meetings, all the guilt trips, no one had mentioned this. I scrambled to pick up the phone, my thoughts spinning wildly. "Why wasn't this in the trial?" I managed to ask. "Your sister's lawyer got it sealed. Said it would prejudice the jury unnecessarily since the child wasn't physically harmed. But I thought you should know, given the circumstances." After hanging up, I sat in my dark kitchen, processing this revelation. Mom knew. She had to know. All those speeches about second chances, all that talk about forgiveness, and she'd hidden this massive piece of information. The next morning, I drove to Mom's house before the kids woke up. She answered the door in her robe, coffee mug in hand, her face brightening when she saw me. That brightness faded quickly when she registered my expression. "You knew about Vivian's daughter," I stated, not bothering with pleasantries. Mom's hand trembled, coffee sloshing dangerously close to the rim. She stepped back, letting me inside, then walked to the kitchen without a word. I followed, watching her refill her mug with deliberate slowness. Where is she now? I pressed. This daughter that was in the car? Mom set down the coffee pot with excessive care. With her father, in Arizona. It's better this way. Better for who? My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. You let me think this was just about Kevin, but she endangered her own child too? The court said she could have supervised visits after rehab, Mom whispered, but her ex moved away, said he couldn't trust her anymore. I thought about my 3 boys, about how fiercely I protected them. Another parent had made the same choice I was making now, except they'd had to uproot their entire life to keep their child safe. And you think I should let her drive my kids around? I asked, incredulous. Mom's face crumpled. She's changed. She's been sober for 2 years. She deserves a chance to prove herself. To who? You? Because that other parent didn't stick around to watch the experiment. I left Mom's house with more questions than answers. Back home, I found my husband already making breakfast, the boys chattering about their upcoming field trip. Normal morning chaos that felt surreal after what I'd learned. That afternoon, while the kids were at school, I did something I'd avoided for 2 years. I researched Vivian's accident thoroughly. The news articles I'd skimmed before now got my full attention. Local news websites, court records, social media posts from that time. There it was, buried in a follow-up article 3 months after the accident. The driver's young daughter, present in the vehicle, was placed in temporary protective custody pending investigation. One sentence that changed everything. I printed every article, every court document I could access. My dining table became a research station. When my husband came home, he found me surrounded by papers, highlighting passages with shaking hands. She fought for custody for 6 months, I told him, showing him the documentation. Lost. The father got full custody and a restraining order. He moved to Arizona 2 months later. My husband sat down heavily, reading through the papers. Your mom never mentioned any of this? Never. Neither did Dad or Jake. They all knew. The next few days passed in a blur of revelation and rage. I couldn't look at my family the same way. Every text from Dad about forgiveness felt like manipulation. Every call from Jake about giving Vivian a chance rang hollow. Then Vivian escalated her tactics. She started sending gifts to the house, not directly, but through Amazon, through delivery services. Toys for the boys, always with cards about how much their aunt loved them. I documented each delivery, photographed each gift before donating them. She began volunteering at the community center where Sam had basketball practice. Not coaching, just helping with equipment. Always positioned where the boys would see her. Always waving, always smiling, always maintaining that careful legal distance. One evening, I was loading groceries when I noticed her silver SUV parked across the street. Oh wow, there's a secret daughter nobody told her about? That changes everything. How did the whole family keep this hidden for 2 years? I'm really curious why the mom thought hiding this would help. Did she think it would never come out? She wasn't in it, but I recognized the license plate. I quickly ushered the boys inside, then watched from the window. 20 minutes later, Vivian emerged from our elderly neighbor Mrs. Willis's house, carrying a plate of cookies. My hands clenched. She was befriending our neighbors, creating a network around us, making herself a fixture in our community so avoiding her would become impossible. That night, after the boys were asleep, I called the prosecutor back. Is there anything else I should know? About the accident, the trial, anything? He hesitated. There were 2 previous DUI arrests, both pleaded down to reckless driving. Your sister had a very good lawyer. 2 previous arrests. My stomach churned. This wasn't one mistake. This was a pattern. The next morning, Mom called while I was making school lunches. Vivian's birthday is next week, she said, her voice carefully neutral. I'm having a small family dinner. Just us. The boys are invited, of course. Number. You can't keep punishing her forever. She's trying so hard. Do you know she goes to AA meetings every single day? Do you know she volunteers at the crisis center? She's dedicating her life to making amends. Did she make amends to her daughter? I asked quietly. The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Finally, Mom's voice came through, smaller than before. That's different. How? How is it different? You don't understand what she went through. The guilt, the shame, losing her daughter broke her. She didn't lose her daughter, Mom. She lost custody because she drove hammered with her baby in the car. That father protected his child, just like I'm protecting mine. Mom's voice turned sharp. That man poisoned Lily against her mother, moved across the country out of spite. At least you're still here. At least she can still see the boys, even from a distance. Lily. So the daughter had a name. Another child whose life Vivian had shattered. I'm not coming to the birthday dinner, I said. Neither are my kids. You're destroying this family, Mom hissed before hanging up. That afternoon, I picked up the boys from school to find Vivian's SUV in the pickup line, 3 cars ahead. She wasn't supposed to be there. This was a closed campus. Only authorized pickups allowed. I marched to the office, my children trailing behind. The secretary looked up with a smile that faded when she saw my expression. Why is Vivian Morrison in the pickup line? I demanded. The secretary looked confused, checking her computer. She's listed as an authorized pickup for the Willis children. Their grandmother added her last week. My blood ran cold. Mrs. Willis, our neighbor. Vivian had befriended her to get onto the pickup list. My children are never to be released to her, I said firmly. Under any circumstances. I don't care if I'm dying in a hospital. She does not pick up my children. The secretary nodded, making notes. But I knew this was just the beginning. Vivian was playing a longer game than I'd realized. That evening, while helping with homework, my oldest asked, Mom, why does Aunt Vivian keep trying to see us if you said no? I set down the pencil I'd been holding. Sometimes adults don't respect boundaries, even when they should. Like when Tommy keeps trying to trade lunches even though I don't want to. Exactly like that, but with more serious things. Is she dangerous? Sam piped up from across the table. I chose my words carefully. She made some very bad choices that hurt people. I'm just being extra careful. Like stranger danger? My youngest asked. More like family danger, Sam said quietly, and my heart broke a little at his understanding. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Lily in Arizona, growing up without her mother, about Kevin, who would never grow up at all, about my 3 boys, caught in the middle of this family war. My phone buzzed at 3 a.m., a text from an unknown number. When I opened it, my blood ran cold. It was a photo of Vivian's old custody papers, with one line highlighted, "Supervised visitation approved upon completion of rehabilitation program." Another text followed. "I completed the program. I have rights." I shot out of bed, waking my husband. We spent the rest of the night researching custody laws, grandparent rights, anything that might give Vivian legal ground to force contact with our children. The temporary no-contact order felt flimsy now. 2 weeks until the hearing. 2 weeks for Vivian to escalate, to plan, to manipulate the system she'd clearly been studying. The next day brought a new development. Jake called during lunch, his voice strained. "I need to tell you something," he began, "about the night of Vivian's accident." I waited for Jake to continue, my grip tightening on the phone. He cleared his throat several times before finally speaking. Jake revealed that Vivian had been drinking at his apartment that night. She'd shown up already intoxicated, demanding more alcohol. He'd tried to take her keys, but she'd grabbed them and stormed out with Lily. He'd called Mom immediately, begging her to stop Vivian, but Mom insisted Vivian just needed to cool down. 20 minutes later, the police called about the accident. My legs gave out. I sank onto the kitchen stool, processing this new betrayal. Jake had known. He'd watched her leave hammered with a toddler and done nothing but make a phone call. After hanging up, I drove straight to Dad's office. He worked at an accounting firm downtown, always prided himself on being the rational one. I found him in the break room, heating up lunch. His face paled when he saw me. I confronted him about Jake's revelation. Dad's hands shook as he set down his coffee. He admitted he'd known about Jake's involvement, but thought it would only hurt the family more if it came out. He'd convinced Jake to keep quiet during the investigation. The scope of the cover-up made me physically ill. They'd all protected Vivian while a child died, and another lost her mother. I left Dad's office without another word. That evening, I found Vivian's car parked at the end of our street. She sat inside, watching our house. When I approached, she rolled down the window with a bright smile. She explained she was just checking if we needed anything. Maybe the boys wanted to play at the park. Her voice had that same artificial sweetness from Mom's birthday dinner. I documented everything with my phone, then called the police. They arrived quickly but explained she wasn't technically violating the temporary order by being on a public street. They asked her to leave, which she did with exaggerated compliance, waving at the officers like old friends. My husband installed additional security cameras that night. We changed our daily routines, taking different routes to school, shopping at different stores. The boys noticed, asking why we couldn't go to their favorite playground anymore. I struggled to explain without frightening them. 2 days later, packages arrived at the boys' school. The office called, confused about 3 large boxes addressed to my children. Inside were expensive tablets, each with a note from Aunt Vivian about staying connected. The school secretary mentioned Vivian had called earlier, asking about the delivery. I refused the packages and instructed the school to reject any future deliveries. The principal agreed to add extra security measures, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. To her, this probably seemed like a family squabble taken too far. Mom escalated her campaign. She started showing up during the boys' activities, always with Vivian in tow. They'd sit just outside the legal distance, holding signs that said, "We love you," and "Family forever." Other parents began whispering, some moving their children away from mine. The isolation was crushing. Friends stopped inviting us to play dates. Sam quit baseball after teammates teased him about his crazy family. My oldest started having nightmares, asking if Aunt Vivian was going to take them away. I hired a family lawyer with our savings. She reviewed everything and delivered harsh truth. Without concrete threats or violations, the permanent order would be difficult. Vivian had completed all court requirements. Her parental rights to Lily were a separate matter. The lawyer suggested mediation. During this chaos, I received an unexpected call. A woman named Elena introduced herself as Lily's paternal grandmother. She lived in Phoenix and had heard about our situation through a mutual acquaintance. She wanted to share her family's experience. Elena revealed that Vivian's drinking hadn't started with the accident. She'd been concerned for years, documenting incidents where Vivian drove after drinking with Lily in the car. The accident was just the first time she'd been caught. Elena's son had tried interventions, but Vivian always convinced everyone she had it under control. She sent me photos from Lily's 3rd birthday party, 2 weeks before the accident. Vivian appeared obviously intoxicated in several pictures, swaying while holding Lily. In one photo, she was behind the wheel with Lily in the back seat, a beer can visible in the cup holder. Elena also shared that Vivian had violated the supervised visitation order twice, showing up at Lily's daycare hammered. That's when they'd moved to Arizona. The distance was their only protection. Armed with this information, I confronted Mom again. This time, I brought the photos. Mom's face crumbled as she looked through them, but her denial ran deep. She insisted the photos didn't show what I claimed. Vivian had been tired, not hammered. The beer can was someone else's. I was misinterpreting everything. The next morning, I woke to find our mailbox smashed. No note, no evidence, just destruction. The boys saw it before I could stop them. My youngest started crying, asking if someone was mad at us. I filed a police report, but without proof. They could only document it. Vivian's playing chess while everyone else thinks it's checkers, using Mrs. Willis to get school access and sending those legal texts at 3 a.m. The whole family knew Jake watched her leave drunk with baby Lily, but kept quiet to protect her reputation instead of protecting kids. Vivian's social media campaign intensified. She posted old photos of her with the boys, writing long captions about aunt-nephew bonds and forgiveness. Friends and distant relatives commented with support, clearly unaware of the full story. Some even reached out to me, urging reconciliation. I started my own documentation documentation. I created a private blog, uploading every incident, every photo, every piece of evidence, not for public consumption, but as a record. If something happened, I wanted proof of the pattern. Jake surprised me by calling one evening, his voice different than before. He'd been in therapy, he said, dealing with his guilt about that night. He wanted to support me now, even if it meant going against mom and dad. He offered to write a statement about what really happened. His change gave me hope, but it also fractured the family further. Mom accused me of turning Jake against them. Dad stopped speaking to both of us. The family divide deepened, with cousins and aunts choosing sides based on incomplete information. School became a battleground. Vivian volunteered for every event, always careful to maintain legal distance from my children. She'd wave enthusiastically, calling out that she missed them. Other parents watched the drama unfold, some with sympathy, others with judgment. The breaking point came during the school's fall festival. I was helping at the cakewalk when I noticed my youngest wasn't with his class. Panic set in as I searched frantically. I found him at the pumpkin painting station with Vivian. She was helping him decorate, both laughing together. She claimed he'd wandered over and she was just being helpful. The teacher confirmed my son had left the group on his own, but I knew better. Vivian had positioned herself strategically, knowing the children would rotate through that station. I removed my son immediately, his painted pumpkin abandoned on the table. He cried the entire way home, not understanding why he couldn't finish his project with Aunt Vivian. That night, all three boys were upset with me for the first time. My husband and I discussed homeschooling, but our jobs made it impossible. We considered moving, but the lawyer warned it could look like we were alienating the children from family. Every option felt like a trap. Mom attempted a new strategy. She invited my husband's parents to lunch, spinning her version of events. Soon, I was fielding calls from his family, urging us to be reasonable. They didn't know about Lily, about the previous arrests, about the cover-up. Mom had crafted a story about one mistake and my inability to forgive. I decided to break the silence. I invited both sets of grandparents to our home and laid out everything. The photos from Elena, Jake's statement, the arrest records, the custody documents. My mother-in-law cried. My father-in-law's face turned red with anger, not at me, but at the deception. With their support, I felt less alone. They began accompanying us to school events, creating a buffer between Vivian and the boys. But Vivian adapted, as she always did. She started dating someone new, a man with children at our school. Within weeks, she was at every school function as his +1. She'd introduced herself to teachers as a concerned aunt, building relationships that bypassed our restrictions. The temporary order expired on a Thursday. The hearing was scheduled for the following Monday. That weekend, Vivian made her boldest move yet. I was grocery shopping while my husband watched the boys at home. He'd taken them to the backyard to rake leaves. When he went inside for water, he returned to find Vivian in our yard, helping the boys bag leaves. She'd climbed the fence, claiming she'd heard them playing and just wanted to help. My husband ordered her to leave immediately. She complied, but not before telling the boys she loved them and would see them soon. The youngest ran after her, crying. My husband had to physically hold him back as Vivian walked away, blowing kisses. We called the police again. This time, they arrested her for trespassing. Mom bailed her out within hours, but we had our violation. The lawyer said it would help our case significantly. That night, Mom called repeatedly. When I finally answered, she was sobbing. She begged me to drop the charges, promised Vivian would stay away, offered anything I wanted, but her promises meant nothing anymore. They'd all proven that protecting Vivian mattered more than protecting children. The boys struggled with the confusion. They missed their aunt, the fun one who brought presents and played games. They didn't understand why someone who said she loved them had to stay away. My explanations felt inadequate against their simple desire for family unity. Elena called the night before the hearing. She wished us luck and shared one final piece of information. Vivian had recently contacted Lily's father, asking about visitation again. She'd claimed to have completed additional therapy and wanted another chance. He'd refused, but the request showed she hadn't given up on accessing the children she'd endangered. I barely slept before the hearing. My mind raced through possibilities, worst-case scenarios, what I'd do if the judge sided with Vivian. My husband held me as I cried, both of us exhausted from months of vigilance. The morning of the hearing arrived gray and drizzling. I dressed carefully, choosing conservative clothes that said responsible parent. The boys went to school as normal, unaware that their immediate future was being decided in a courtroom across town. We arrived early, meeting our lawyer in the parking lot. She reviewed our evidence one final time, reminding us to stay calm and factual. Inside, I saw our divided family filling the courtroom. Mom and Dad sat behind Vivian. Jake sat with us, his presence a small comfort. Vivian entered with her lawyer, dressed impeccably, looking every inch the reformed, responsible adult. She made eye contact with me once, her expression unreadable. Mom reached forward to squeeze her shoulder. As we waited for the judge, I thought about Kevin and Lily, two children whose lives were forever altered by Vivian's choices. I thought about my three boys, innocent in this adult drama. I thought about the father in Arizona who'd uprooted his entire life to protect his daughter. The bailiff called us to rise as the judge entered. My heart pounded as we took our seats. 3 weeks of evidence, documentation, and testimony had led to this moment. Whatever happened next would define our family's future. The hearing was about to begin, and with it, the final chapter of our family's struggle with truth, protection, and the price of keeping children safe. The judge reviewed our evidence methodically, asking pointed questions about each incident. Vivian's lawyer argued that my sister had completed every court requirement, attended therapy religiously, and deserved access to her nephews. Our lawyer countered with the trespassing arrest, the pattern of stalking behavior, and Elena's documentation. The permanent restraining order was granted, but with modifications. Vivian could attend public events where the children were present, but had to maintain a 100-foot distance. No direct contact, no gifts, no communication through third parties. Violation would result in immediate arrest. Vivian's face crumpled. Mom stood up up abruptly, knocking over her purse. The contents scattered across the courtroom floor, including a thick envelope of photographs. As she scrambled to collect them, several fell near my feet. They were pictures of my boys, recent ones, taken from distances and angles that made my skin crawl. Some showed them playing in our backyard, visible through gaps in our fence. Others captured them at school, zoomed in on their faces during recess. The judge noticed the commotion and requested to see the photos. Mom's face went white as she realized what she'd revealed. The judge examined each image, her expression growing more severe. She asked Mom directly about the photographs. Mom stammered that Vivian had given them to her, that she just wanted to see her grandsons grow up. The judge modified her ruling on the spot. The restraining order now included Mom as well. Both were prohibited from photographing the children or approaching within the specified distance. The courtroom erupted. Dad finally spoke, begging the judge to reconsider. Jake remained silent beside me, his jaw clenched. Outside the courthouse, Mom confronted me, her carefully styled hair disheveled from running her hands through it. She accused me of destroying the family, of taking everything from her. Vivian stood behind her, tears streaming down her face but saying nothing. Dad tried to calm Mom down, but she pushed him away. I gathered my documentation and left without responding. My husband met me at the car, having taken the afternoon off work. We drove home in silence, both processing what had just happened. The boys noticed the change immediately. No more surprise appearances at school events, no more packages arriving, no more silver SUV following us, but they also noticed the absence of their grandparents. My oldest asked why Grandma didn't come to his school play. Sam wondered if Grandpa was sick since he hadn't seen him at soccer practice. I explained as simply as possible that sometimes adults need space from each other, but that it had nothing to do with them. They accepted this with the resilience children often show, though I caught them looking wistfully at other kids with their grandparents. Jake became our bridge to that side of the family. He'd visit the boys weekly, bringing updates about their cousins and carefully edited news about Mom and Dad. Wait, the photos falling out of Mom's purse. How long had she been secretly taking pictures of the boys through fence gaps? That's such a strange twist that she was helping Vivian spy on them this whole time. He never mentioned Vivian, and I didn't ask. Through him, I learned that Mom had started therapy, finally confronting her enabling behavior. Dad had moved into the guest room, their marriage strained by the revelations and Mom's role in the deception. 3 months after the hearing, I received a letter from Elena. She included new photos of Lily, a bright-eyed 6-year-old with Vivian's dark hair, but none of her shadows. Elena wrote that Lily was thriving, loved school, and had recently started piano lessons. She thanked me for standing firm, saying it validated their decision to maintain distance. The letter also contained news that shook me. Vivian had been arrested again, this time for public intoxication. She'd broken her 2-year sobriety after the restraining order. Mom had bailed her out, but the incident had made the local news. Several people had recognized her name and connected it to Kevin's death. I felt no satisfaction reading this, only a deep sadness. Despite everything, she was still my sister. The girl who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd snuck me candy when Mom said no, who'd held me when I cried over my first heartbreak. That person was gone, replaced by someone I couldn't save and couldn't trust. My husband suggested we move, start fresh somewhere without the weight of family history. But our roots ran deep here. The boys had friends, good schools, a life beyond this drama. Instead, we focused on building new traditions, creating a stable environment despite the family fracture. 6 months after the hearing, life had found a new rhythm. The boys were thriving. My oldest in robotics club, Sam back at baseball, my youngest discovering art. We'd built something new from the wreckage, smaller but stronger, chosen instead of obligated. Dad visited weekly now, having chosen his grandsons over his marriage. Jake had become our bridge to extended family, sharing carefully filtered updates. Even Elena wrote occasionally, sending photos of Lily thriving in Arizona, a reminder that other parents had made the same impossible choice. The restraining order would need renewal next year, but for now, we had peace. My boys were safe. They understood that love sometimes means saying no, that protecting someone isn't cruel even when others call you unforgiving. Every night when I checked on them sleeping, I knew the price had been worth it. Some things matter more than family harmony. Some truths are worth the cost of speaking them. My sister killed a child while drunk driving. She endangered her own daughter. These facts wouldn't change, no matter how many tears were shed. My job was to ensure my children never became part of that pattern, and I had succeeded. Thanks for coming along on this little journey with me. It's been awesome wondering through it all together. Can't wait to do it again soon. Subscribe for more content like this.